with Fat Ass 45 turning down Pelosi's stimulus deal the other day. It was the worst political blunder that he made in history. In May, the House of Representatives had passed a $3 trillion economic relief bill over the next 4.5 months. Republicans in the White House and Senate dithered, alternating between good faith engagement and lethargy. The apparent final blow came in the form of a series of tweets by Fat Ass 45 announcing to end all negotiations for the stimulus talk. It is possible that Fat Ass 45, who just yesterday declared his desire to cut a deal, intends that this is one of his clever negotiating employees, which it's not, enabling him to turn around and make a deal that he can paint as a capitalization by his panicked foes. But even if that happens, the window to boost the economy and time to help him, obviously the only consideration Fat Ass 45 cares about, is closing fast. Walking away from the extended hand of an opposition party willing to pump trillions of dollars into the economy may go down as the single greatest political blunder in the history of elections. While Fad's 45's polling advantage on the economy is dwindling, his double-digit advantage has shrunk to a tie. It remains his greatest political asset. It has seemed puzzling to some outsiders that Fad's 45's economic approval could stay aloft in the face of mass unemployment that's facing right now. But the employment figures have not told the whole story. The previous economic stimulus bill it stuffed so much money into the public's pockets that household incomes actually rose, even in the face of the catastrophic joblessness. Stimulus checks and plussed up jobless benefits have more than replaced the lost income for the recession. People think that Fat Ass 45 is good for the economy because they have more money. If they had more money, they would like Fat Ass 45's economy more. No, I wouldn't. But note this. Um, um, Note that Fat Ass 45, without getting any permission from the Democrats, had basically affixed his name to the check sent out to the last bill. The reason for that is because he wants to make it look like the reason why he did that is because he looks at it as like, well, if I put my name on the checks, then people will vote for me because basically he's trying to get it to look like, oh, I gave you guys something. It was money that I gave to you. It wasn't. It was money that we had. It was money that we had gotten from somebody else, but not from your fat ass. This didn't even stop the Democrats from offering him the chance to mail out more Fat Ass 45 branded checks. Pelosi was willing to reduce the size of the next bill to a 2.4 trillion, which amazingly was a concession to the incumbent squat Fat Ass. Even more amazingly, Fat Ass 45 spurned it as being too generous. So why have the Republicans acted so differently to an offer that might have reshaped the campaign in their favor? Conservative ideological dogma has loomed larger than many Democrats previously suspected. Republicans elites genuinely believe that higher spending and especially generous unemployment benefits basically slow economic growth, and that Fat Ass 45's policies of lax regulatory oversight and low taxes on the rich will produce prosperity on its own. Fat Ass 45 is claiming the economy is good, which it's not right now, and thus it does not require more help. The economy is anemic and will probably limp along without any more assistance right now. At first, they are willing to bend their ideology for the benefit of a Republican squatter. Had Hillary Clinton been president last spring, the Republicans would not have approved a stimulus bill, but the tension between their ideology and their political pragmatism remained, and the former finally won out among Republicans to at least create the real internal resistance to a new bill. The Republican rationale for opposing the House bill has always been that is a blue state bailout. A reward for irresponsible Democratic jurisdiction, the claim is simply false. The economic crisis has dried up tax revenue and driven up spending needs in states and cities run by Democrats and Republicans alike. State and local governments are required to balance their budgets, which means that it's difficult for them to be irresponsible. Suppose it were somehow true, though, that the Democratic states and towns were exclusively in need of federal help to avoid tax hikes and service cuts. You can see why ideological conservatives might salivate at the opportunity to use a crisis to cut them down to size, but why would Fat Ass 45 want that? Does he think laying off cops and teachers in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania helps him? Fat Ass 45 has frequently followed his party's anti-government wing to politically disastrous outcomes. Fat Ass 45 has spent most of his first year trying to pass a wildly unpopular partisan repeal of Obamacare rather than attempting some kind of bipartisan patch-up bill he could rebrand as Fat Ass 45 Care. He then passed an unpopular tax cut for wealthy heirs and business owners. He abandoned his populist promises to raise his own taxes, crack down on Wall Street, and try to rebuild infrastructure. All these failures forfeited his crucial 2016 appeal to economic populist swing voters who saw him as more moderate than the typical Republicans. But why did he allow himself to be led by the nose into self-defeating positions? Obviously, Fat Ass 45 knows very little about public policy. He does have some grasp of what they call of self-interest, though, and has frequently expressed his correct view that it lies in casting aside anti-government dogma and borrowing as much money as he could. One explanation might be that Fat Ass 45's hatred and distrust of Democrats drove him to instinctive opposition. Fat Ass 45 thinks entirely in zero-sum terms, and habitually accuses anybody not working on his behalf of being motivated by a desire to defeat him. Once House Democrats passed an economic relief bill just months after impeaching him. Fat Ass 45 probably assumed that the bill could only hurt him, or at least the fact Democrats passed it so willingly made it easier for right-wing ideologues to convince him that the bill would hurt him. Fat Ass 45's it says Fat Ass 45's zero-sum mindset is one reason he is awful at making deals. If he has indeed walked away from the House's offer, he has turned down what may have been his last best chance to win re-election, which he was probably never going to win re-election anyway. But prior presidents have made worse policy choices before, but it is hard to think of this fat ass who has ever made a purely political decision that is so predictably disastrous now. So that was Fat Ass 45's mistake, turning it down. But if you liked the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Ryan Mike, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.